kind of what we had said, all week on the podcast, on TV on Saturday. Miami was going to be the bigger bully, and that was the case. I mean, early, it was just like, whoa, look out. How bad is this going to be? They kind of called off the dogs for a little bit. Then some of the other guys got in, and they were able to, make it happen. So, I'm thinking what is interesting about that is just how good can this Miami team be?
Yeah.
And, they have a huge matchup this weekend, right? I cannot wait. We will be there. Game day will be there. It's going to be a huge party. Down there in Coral Gables and then head over to Miami Gardens for the game. And I can't wait to see it. And I don't know necessarily if we will know after the Florida game. Florida suffering 2 losses in a row, probably a third. But still, it's a rivalry. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And just mentality wise, can you continue to hammer down and be this big, nasty team that we think you are? So I have loved what I've seen from Miami.
And I think the big takeaway was, Mario Cristobal sat up at the podium after the dominant win over USF. 49-12 was your final score, and it looked a lot like it did last year when Cam Ward was at quarterback and they beat down on the Bulls. And this was a ranked USF team, so certainly significantly better than they were last year. But he said our guys didn't want to be part of a narrative of somebody else's success because USF, Boise State fell victim to that. Florida fell victim to that, to USF. And this Miami team said the buck stops here. And I think that says a lot about internally where this program is, where the leadership is, really on both sides of the ball and what their bigger mission is. They were like, it's a faceless opponent. We don't really care who we're playing. Sure, there's bragging rights on the line. It's part of that in-state rivalry thing, even though Miami's dominated that over the Bulls. But there was a bigger picture there internally for this team. And I think that's where it starts, is inside the building. And what are they building? And I think that foundation is so sturdy. So I cannot also wait to see what the future holds for this Miami team. And good on them for not looking too far ahead to the Florida game, because I know they will be favored over Florida. But Florida has 4- and 5-star guys too. And Florida is feeling down after losing 2 straight because they feel like they should be better for their head coach in Billy Napier. So it's on Miami. It's incumbent on them to continue enforcing their will. And a couple of things I noticed from the game were obviously Carson Beck, a season high 340 yards passing, did finally throw his first interception as a Miami Hurricane. He had 2 of them. So sure he'll go back. And that's maybe a good thing. He has some things to clean up because it has been so this team through the first couple of weeks of the season. I loved watching Mark Fletcher run. He went for over 100 yards and had a couple of touchdowns on the ground. So great to establish their dominance on the ground. And they got so many receivers involved. Like we've seen Malachi Toney, the freshman, really emerge. Joshua Moore's another 4-star guy who's a freshman from South Florida who had a pair of touchdowns too. So I just thought you saw more of Miami coming into their own against a really good team in USF. And that is so much good and so much to build on too. So there's still a ways for them to go, Emac, and I think
Yeah.
that's such a great thing.
Right. And that I'm right there with you. And I think just the continued efficiency from Carson Beck. Listen, we've got a long way to go. It's only been 3 years, but we kind of told y'all he's going to be back to his old self of 2 years ago where he was lighting college football on fire, dicing guys up, had a crazy statistical year. And we also said we didn't think it was really a quarterback problem Georgia had last year. It was some other pieces. Some of that, has sprouted up still. They got a huge win over Tennessee, so good for them. But Carson wasn't the biggest issue, really an issue at all. He was just trying to force that, and he has guys that can now make those plays. I mean, my goodness, seeing how Malachi Toney, can catch the ball and the things that he does, but also CJ Daniels, like he has a guy in CJ that he just says, yep, he's down there, launches it, and he's going to catch the ball. Like he's going to find a way
Easy.
to make that happen. I mentioned the offensive line. They played really, really well. Again, moving and reestablishing that line of scrimmage. And then the other side that we were interested in was the defense and how were they going to continue to grow, stand tall. We mentioned Brown, how good of a player he is, and the awareness you need to have of him. He rushed 13 times for a whopping 2 yards. That's
2 of
that's
them.
what you expect. That's what you think, Miami can do and have the ability to make that happen. And that's not a bunch of sacks. Miami only had 2 sacks. So they're just literally not letting guys through the line of scrimmage. They're holding their point, doing their thing. I was very impressed with how Miami came out on fire, even had to deal with a crazy weather delay,
Almost 2
and
hours.
still, yeah, still came out and played to a super high level. I think we're gonna continue, as we have seen statistically and on the scoreboard, this team get better, more comfortable, closer together as the year goes on, and that's a good thing. That's what you wanna see, from a team that you have really high expectation from, and that you maybe have some question marks. You want those answered on the field, and Miami has 100% done that.